Before we begin, listen carefully, because the moment you hear the final lines of this story, you will understand why life sometimes brings strangers together at the perfect time. If you enjoy heart-touching stories, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss our true kindness tales. On a who had sacrificed half his life in service to his country, found himself walking through the small snowy town he had just moved into. After years of missions, danger, and loss, he wanted nothing more than peace. But peace came with silence, and silence came with memories. And memories weren't always gentle. The streets were empty, apart from glowing Christmas lights hanging from houses. Most families were warm inside, celebrating with laughter and joy. But John walked alone, hands in pockets, scarf covering the lower half of his face. He had grown used to solitude, too used to it. Then, he saw something unusual. A faint light flickered inside an old wooden house at the end of the road. The house looked worn out, with a broken porch rail and a dark yard. But what caught John's eyes wasn't the house, it was a small boy, maybe 6 years old, standing by the frosted window with a blanket over his shoulders. His face was sad, not the face of a child enjoying Christmas night. John slowed down. Then he noticed a woman inside, probably in her early 30s, leaning against the kitchen counter. She was crying silently, her shoulders trembling. Next to her, a little girl around 8 was trying to comfort her, hugging her waist with scared, tired eyes. Something tightened in John's chest. He had seen suffering before, but seeing it on Christmas, here in a quiet town, inside a home that should be filled with warmth, felt different. It felt wrong. He hesitated, unsure if he should intervene. He didn't know them. They didn't know him. Who was he to step into their lives? But then the front door opened suddenly. The woman stepped outside, wearing a thin sweater despite the freezing air. She took a shaky breath and looked up at the sky as snowflakes drifted down. John could tell instantly, she was exhausted, broken, carrying too much for one person. He approached slowly, not wanting to frighten her. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he asked, voice gentle. She turned, startled, wiping tears quickly. "Oh, yes, sorry. I didn't think anyone was out here." John gave a small nod. "Just taking a walk. I saw your kids through the window. Everything okay?" At that, her eyes filled again. She looked down, embarrassed. "It's nothing. It's been hard." John waited. He had learned that people speak when they feel safe, not when pushed. Finally she whispered, "My husband passed away 6 months ago. This is our first Christmas without him. We don't even have a proper dinner. I lost my job last month. I'm doing my best but..." Her voice cracked. "I feel like I'm failing them." The cold wind carried her words like shards of pain. John looked toward the dimly lit house, the 2 children watching nervously. And in an instant, something inside him, the protector he thought he had buried with his past, rose again. "You're not failing them," he said, firm but kind. "But no one should struggle alone. Not today." She looked up, confused. John took a breath. Then he extended his hand and said the words that would change all their lives. "Come with me." The woman stared, unsure if she heard correctly. Snowflakes melted on her lashes as she whispered, "Where?" John gave a gentle, reassuring smile. "Someplace warm, someplace safe. I promise." She hesitated, but something about his presence, his calmness, his sincerity, told her she could trust him. And with that single moment, their story began. John led the widow and her 2 children through the quiet snowy streets, his tall figure walking ahead while the children followed closely beside their mother. The woman's heart pounded with every step. She didn't know this man, not really. But something in his voice, something in his eyes, felt steady, trustworthy, and safe. Her children, too, seemed drawn to the calm he carried. After losing her husband, she had learned to fear strangers, but she also learned to recognize genuine kindness, and tonight, on a freezing Christmas night, it shone in John like a beacon. They walked until they reached a small cabin sitting at the edge of the woods, warm light glowing through the curtains. A wooden porch wrapped around the front, smoke drifted from the chimney, and the scent of fresh pine filled the air. "This is yours?" she asked softly. John nodded. "Bought it after leaving the service. Haven't had many visitors, ever." The cabin felt humble but deeply comforting, like a place built not for luxury, but for healing. Inside, warmth hit them instantly. A stone fireplace crackled with bright orange flames, and soft lamps cast a golden glow across the living room. John immediately walked to the small kitchen, moving with quiet confidence. "Please sit," he said gently. "You've had enough weight on your shoulders today." The widow hesitated, then sat on the couch with her children curling into her sides. For the first time that night, she felt her frozen fingers thaw. John opened a cupboard and began pulling out ingredients. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Cooking," he replied with a small smile. "A Christmas dinner. Maybe not the fanciest one, but a warm one." The little girl whispered, "Mom, he's nice." Her mother nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. As he cooked, the soft sizzling of food brought life into the room. The widow hadn't heard that sound in months, not since her husband used to cook for them on weekends. Her eyes stung as memories surfaced, but John's presence kept her grounded in the moment. "You're good with kids," she observed quietly. "I had a little sister," he replied, voice soft. "She passed when I was overseas. That's when everything changed for me." The widow looked at him with new understanding. Behind his strength was a river of unspoken pain. Behind his calm eyes was a past full of shadows. The boy, curious, asked, "Were you a hero?" John shook his head gently. "Sometimes I saved people, sometimes I couldn't, but I always tried." The room fell silent, until the girl spoke again. "You saved us tonight." John froze. The simple words hit him deeper than he expected. When the food was ready, they gathered around the small wooden table. Steam rose from warm plates, and the children's eyes lit up. They ate quickly but happily, their small faces glowing with gratitude. The widow took a bite and closed her eyes. Warm, flavorful, comforting, something her home hadn't felt in months. Tears slipped down her cheeks before she could stop them. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know what this means." John looked away, his own voice tight. "I think I do." After dinner, the children played with the old wooden toy set John kept in a corner, one he had made himself during long lonely nights. They laughed softly, filling the cabin with sounds that had been missing for too long. The widow sat quietly near the fire, watching her babies smile again. John handed her a warm cup of tea and sat beside her with respectful distance. For a long moment, neither spoke. They simply watched the flames dance. Then she whispered, "John, why did you help us?" He stared into the fire. "Because I know what it's like to lose someone. And because no one, especially not kids, should feel alone on Christmas." She looked at him, her heart aching for this man who carried his own scars. "You gave us more than help," she said. "You gave us hope." John met her eyes, and for the first time since they'd met, he smiled, not the polite kind, but one that revealed the healing starting inside him as well. And that night, in a cabin warmed by fire and unexpected kindness, three strangers began to feel something they hadn't felt in a long time, the beginning of family. The children fell asleep on the couch, curled up under a soft quilt John found in a chest near his bed. Their peaceful breathing filled the room, a gentle rhythm that softened the edges of the night. The widow stood beside them, brushing their hair gently, her eyes full of tenderness. John quietly placed another log into the fireplace, the flames rising with a soft roar. The warmth filled the room, but something else filled the silence: gratitude, connection, and a kind of peace none of them had expected to find tonight. When John returned to the living room, the widow looked at him with a mixture of exhaustion and admiration. "You've done more for us tonight than anyone has in months," she said softly. John shook his head. "I only gave what I had. Sometimes that's enough." She stepped closer. "John, you barely know us." He met her gaze. "Sometimes it doesn't matter how long you've known someone. Sometimes it matters what you see in them." She swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "And what do you see in us?" John looked at the sleeping children, then back at her. "Strength, love, a family fighting to survive. And something else." His voice dropped. "Something worth protecting." Her breath caught. Those words, spoken by a man who had spent his life protecting others, meant more than he realized. She lowered her eyes, tears trailing down her cheeks. "I thought we were forgotten," she whispered. "I thought no one would ever care again." John reached out slowly, gently lifting her chin so she would meet his eyes again. "You are not forgotten, and you don't have to do this alone." The dam of her emotions broke, and she stepped forward, hugging him tightly. John hesitated only a moment before he wrapped his strong arms around her, one hand cupping the back of her head as she sobbed softly against him. The embrace wasn't romantic, it was human. Healing. Necessary. They stayed like that for a long moment, two broken souls finding warmth in each other. When she finally pulled away, John cleared his throat awkwardly. You and the kids can stay here tonight. My bed is yours. I'll take the couch. She shook her head. No, John, you don't have to. I want to, he interrupted gently. I want you to feel safe. Her lips curved into a tender smile, the first genuine smile of the night. As she guided her children to John's small bedroom, one of them stirred, whispering sleepily, Mom, is he our friend? She paused at the doorway, her eyes softening. Yes, baby, I think he is. When she returned to the living room, John was placing an old wool blanket on the couch. Thank you, she whispered again. For tonight. For everything. He nodded, his voice deep but warm. Good night. She hesitated, then stepped forward and pressed a soft kiss to his cheek. Good night, John. Hours passed. Snow piled outside. The fire slowly softened into glowing embers. John lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling something he had not felt in years, a sense of belonging. And somewhere in the house, the widow lay awake too, whispering a silent prayer of gratitude for the stranger who had become her anchor. When morning light spilled through the curtains, the children ran out laughing, waking John with excited shouts about the fresh snow outside. Their laughter filled the cabin like sunshine. The widow walked out moments later. Hair messy, eyes soft, wearing one of John's old flannel shirts he left for her to sleep in. She looked at John with warmth and something new, trust. Hope. Maybe even the beginning of love. Merry Christmas, John said, his voice deep and warm. She smiled. It is, she whispered, because of you. And in that quiet morning glow, among untouched snow and the smell of burning wood, a new family was born, one built from loss, kindness, and the courage to take someone's hand when they say, come with me. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more beautiful true kindness tales. Sometimes the greatest miracles come from the simplest acts of compassion, shared at the moment someone needs them most.